Hello everyone, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and I am back today with a finished jewelry update featuring the beads that came in the Beads of the Month Club that I received for November 2022. And in front of you now, you can see that palette of gorgeous 2-hole beads. That was their 2-hole Beads of the Month Club. I will link to the unboxing in the corner if you're interested in checking that out if you haven't already. And I'll leave the link for their subscription right down below. They have several different ones you can choose from, and you can use a coupon code which is OPAL10, OPAL 10, to save 10% off the first month of your first club if you'd like to try them out. I wanted to bring you this ceramic dish with all these beads, not just to show you which 8 types of beads I was working with this month, but also so you could see how much is left over. I did make 8 pieces that I'm about to show you, and I'll talk to you a little bit about those. And of course, I did pull other things from my stash, and a lot of the items came from previous Beads of the Month clubs, but everything that you're about to see has at least one type of bead from the selection of 8 below. The theme of this palette was called Bengal Tiger, so it was a really kind of dark, earthy, fallish palette with the exception of that very bright orange in the quarter teals, which kind of wakes up the darkness that we see in about half the palette. I don't feel like I personally reach for the oranges and browns as much, but I love this palette with everything they have combined, and it was a really interesting challenge for me because they're not colors I normally gravitate to right off the bat. So I have 8 pieces. One of them is from one of my designs that I shared a couple of years ago, and the other 7 are actually from other designers and beading patterns that I picked out from some beading books that I had in my collection. So I'm going to tell you who the designer is and which book it is, so that way you know where you can find that particular pattern if you're interested in making one of the things that you're about to see. And I'll try to leave links for all of those books right down below the video so you'll know where you can get your hands on them or where you can find more information. So up first is this coral reef bracelet. This is one of my designs, and you can find the tutorial on my channel. I'll try to link to that in the corner of the video also. Or you can just search for coral reef here or on my website. This is where I used those really bright orange quarter tila beads, and they form part of the base of this particular bracelet design. So they added that bright spark of color, but were also broken up by some of those shiny crystal beads. This one uses 8mm fire polish going down the center channel, as well as some 4mm fire polish that you see along the sides, and some size 8/0 and 11/0 seed beads. Also, to finish this one up, I used a button clasp, which had this pretty crystal coppery tone that I think is a great complement with these orange and golden brown tones. And I just formed a loop at the end of the bracelet to turn that into the clasp portion. Bracelet number 2 is called the Brick Bracelet, and it's by the talented Isabella Lamb, and it's in her book called Beautiful Beadweaving on page 52. I had this one bookmarked as something I wanted to make with the half tilas because I thought her design was so interesting and really simple at the same time, because you're just using really 3 different types of beads. You're using the half tilas, you can see those in cream with the AB coating, some 11/0s and 15/0 seed beads, and that's it, and you get this really cool double half tila chain, which is very slinky and lightweight and also kind of airy. You get this basket weave type of effect too, where it's open in the center and then in the centers of each of those crossed sections. So I had no trouble whipping that up from her pattern. It was really clear and easy to follow. And there's an idea of what that looks like when it's actually worn on the wrist. So pretty. And here is bracelet number 3. This is called the Tea Leaf Bracelet. It's by Renee Kovnesky, and it's in the book called Exquisite Stitching with Multi-Hole Beads on page 60. The only thing is I did make a substitute just because I wanted to use one other bead from the Beads of the Month Club palette, and I switched out the Storm Duos that you can see there with the Super Duos that were originally in the pattern. So if you have 2-hole beads that are similar in size, you can definitely try swapping some of those out in different patterns, and sometimes the result comes out great. This one seemed to work out really well. One other change that I made, just because the Storm Duos provided a little bit of a different shape, was I went back and I included some extra 15-0 seed beads in these crystal sections because there was a little bit more space in some areas that showed some of the thread, and I kind of wanted to cover that up just a bit more. But as you can see, this one is using those beautiful Tweedy storm duos as well as some of the full-size Tila beads. I pulled 2 different colors of 15-0 round seed beads from my stash and also 2 different colors of 3mm crystal bicones. This next one ended up being one of my favorite things from this collection. It's called Dewdrops, and it's by Patricia Barker in the book called Colorful Components on page 68. And the reason it's my favorite, and not just because of these beautiful components that are stitched together to make this bracelet, but the actual clasp is something that I had gotten a long time ago from the Beads of the Month Club Findings Companion Pack. And how classy does that black metallic clasp look with this statement bracelet? I mean, it's just, I think, such a beautiful way to finish that off. It complements it really well. It's so sturdy and high-end. So in this design, we were instructed to make 5 different beaded components and then string them together at the end. And this one includes those 2-hole cabochon beads in that really dark sort of hematite color. It also incorporated some quadra tiles and quadra lentils 4-hole beads. And I also used 2 different colors of size 11-0 round seed beads and some 8-0s from my stash. Next, I have 2 pair of earrings to share with you, and these actually coordinate pretty well with that bracelet down there, and that's because this is actually a design also created by Patricia Barker, who did the bracelet we just saw, in the book Colorful Components, and these are called the Floret earrings. So these incorporate the same 2-hole cabs. You can see that I brought in the dagger beads as well that came in this month's collection. Some seed beads again from my stash in 2 different colors, and we have some quadrilental 4-hole beads in the centers of these beaded components. And again, this was one where I could pull some of these earring findings from my stash from a previous Beads of the Month Club Findings Companion Pack, and they add a beautiful, elegant finish to these earrings. Here's the second pair of earrings that I made with the contents, and these are also by Isabella Lamb from her book Beautiful Beadweaving, and they're called the Vicki earrings. They include those 2-tone gem duo beads that you can see in those corner spaces, and in addition to that, they use some 14mm round crystal rivolis, and these, believe it or not, are resin from Potomac Beads. I was really impressed by these, and I incorporated some Preciosa pearl drops at the bottom, along with some 3mm crystal bicones, some O beads, 15-0, 11-0, and 8-0 seed beads. And now I have 2 remaining items. They're both necklaces. Let me clear off this space and I'll bring in the first one. It's by Renee Kovnesky on page 99 of Creative Beading Volume 2. And I fell in love with this necklace even more seeing it in person and in this color palette. I'd actually like to make a few more in different colors. I think it is simple and elegant and very wearable. And I love the use of Tilas in this necklace. Those, of course, coming from this month's bead set. And I incorporated some of those really dark bronze or brownish colored super duos in the necklace. Those came in a previous month's Beads of the Month Club. And in addition to that, used some size 15, 11, and 8-0 seed beads. For the clasp area, I used an antique copper-colored hook and loop style clasp that I beaded right into the necklace with that copper color, I think, really working with the tones of this warm fallish palette. And then the second necklace and last item I have to share with you is the Dolev necklace by also Isabella Lamb from her book Beautiful Beadweaving. I just found so much inspiration this time around and wanted to give these designs of hers a try for the first time. It happens to be one of the books that contains patterns that incorporate some of the more unusual 2-hole check glass shapes, so it's great to be able to pull some of these things together. You can see that I used those triangular Cheops Parpuka beads in this one with that tweedy finish. And that was really it from the Beads of the Month Club. I incorporated things that I had from my stash to fill out the remainder of the materials in some coordinating colors. This one also uses super duos, 4mm crystal bicones, O beads, 2 sizes of dagger beads, 6mm rounds, and 11/0 and 8/0 seed beads. And here you can see the hook and loop style clasp that I used at the back of this necklace also. All of these patterns and treasures came together really nicely from each of these designers and books. I would recommend every single one of them if there's anything here you'd like to give a try. And like I said, I'll leave the pattern name and links to the book or pattern right down below the video in the description section. So if you wanted to make something you saw here, you'll know where to find it. So as you can see all together, that's really quite a few items that I was able to make from the beads, and I still have so many beads left like you saw in that ceramic dish. Of course, this combined with other things from my stash, but that's why I really like these clubs. You get such an inspiring palette of colors, sometimes palettes that maybe you're not used to gravitating towards, and that's part of the fun, I think, about growing and learning and trying new things when it comes to your artwork. It gets your brain to think in a different way. And speaking of which, if you noticed it's been a little bit quieter here over the past couple weeks, that was because I was enjoying a little bit of a mental vacation for a bit. I've been going at this pretty hard for almost 5 years, which is hard to believe. And as many of you know, I have to force myself to take a break sometimes. And my brain definitely needed it. So thank you for bearing with me as it's been a little bit of additional time between new creations and tutorials. It was also a nice brain break to go with a lot of designs from other designers and patterns that I had from books on hand that I never ever tried because I was too busy playing around with my own types of creations to share here. But I love digging into others' beautiful work too, to show that off and to also get out of my own head for a bit. So that said, don't be afraid to take breaks when you need them. Don't be afraid to switch back and forth between different crafts. Take a little bit of that pressure off yourself from time to time, because often inspiration will strike when you least expect it, and sometimes be even better when you come back to it. So I don't know if anybody needed to hear that today. I know I need to hear that a lot, so just gonna put that out there. But I want to thank you all so much for being here. I love having you. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope you enjoyed checking out these pieces and it provided you with some inspiration and some ideas for your own beadwork, and also gave you a great visual for all the different things you can make with the lovely beads that come in the Beads of the Month clubs. Like I said, they have multiple ones to choose from. The 2-hole beads club just happens to be one of my favorites. And if you're into bead weaving and multi-hole beads, I cannot recommend them enough. So be sure to check down below again for the link to that subscription and the coupon code if you'd like to try them out. That is all I have for now. I hope to see you all again real soon. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I'd love to have you back. Feel free to leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you have a favorite item here or anything else you'd like to say. Be sure to give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and share it with your other beading friends. Until next time, I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day, and as always, happy beading.